What happens when the CEO of a 10-location diner chain trades his penthouse view for a greasy apron and a name tag? Cameron Vance never wanted the business. His father built the diner chain from a single roadside stop into 10 bustling locations across 3 states. When his dad passed last year, Cameron stepped into the role more out of duty than passion. He didn't change much, trusted the district manager, reviewed the monthly reports, smiled at the profit margins. But lately, the numbers weren't adding up. Online reviews showed complaints about food quality, rude staff, and cold service, especially at the Southridge location. Just a rough patch, his district manager, Pete, had said over the phone. New hires, high turnover. We're handling it. But Cameron had a gut feeling Pete wasn't handling anything. So he shaved his beard, dyed his hair brown, and slapped on a pair of thick glasses. He used his cousin's name, Ryan, and applied for a kitchen trainee position at the Southridge diner. The application went through without question. No one at that location had ever met him in person. It helped that Southridge had been opened just 2 years ago, and most of the original employees had already quit. The manager, a wiry man named Troy with a constant Bluetooth in his ear, barely looked up when Cameron walked in for a shift. "You're the new guy?" Troy muttered, scrolling through his tablet. "Apron's over there. Talk to Devin, she's lead cook today." Devin was a sharp-eyed woman in her 30s, sleeves rolled up, already sweating at the grill. "You ever worked a flat top before?" she asked without turning. "I've done some cooking," Cameron said carefully. "Yeah, well, here it's fast and sloppy. You'll see." The kitchen was chaos. Orders piled up, fries burned, and the server kept shouting that table 12 wanted their pancakes, not raw this time. But Cameron kept his head down, learning, watching. Devin moved like she'd been doing this 10 years. She barked instructions, flipped burgers, and somehow kept the whole place from collapsing. 3 hours into the shift, a skinny man wandered through the front door. His hoodie was ragged, shoes falling apart, face pale from hunger. He looked around, unsure, then slid into a booth near the back. Troy walked past him once. Then again. On the third pass, he leaned over. "This ain't a shelter," he snapped. "No money, no food." The man didn't respond, just stared at the menu. Before Troy could say anything else, Devin stepped out from behind the counter. "Hey," she said gently, holding a wrapped sandwich and a bottle of water.
"Here."
"On me." Troy turned, furious. "Devin, what the hell are you doing?" "I'm feeding someone who's hungry," she said, setting the food in front of the man. "I'll pay for it." "You're not paid to play charity. That comes out of your check." "Fine," she said. "Take it out." The man mumbled a thank you. Devin nodded and went back to the grill like she hadn't just broken company policy. Cameron stood frozen by the fryer, heart pounding. He hadn't come here expecting this. He came looking for sloppiness, maybe laziness. But Devin's quiet act hit him harder than any of that. Troy came storming back into the kitchen. "I swear, one more stunt like that and she's gone. Thinks she's Mother Teresa." Cameron kept his voice level. "Does that happen a lot?" "Her? Always sticking her neck out. She's good, but she's not management material. Too emotional." "Right," Cameron said, turning back to the fryer. But inside, something had already shifted. By the end of the shift, Devin was wiping down the grill, sweat on her forehead, hair tied back. "You did okay for a newbie," she said, tossing him a rag. "Fast hands. You'll learn." Cameron nodded. "Thanks. You always feed people like that." She hesitated. "Not always. But when someone's that hungry."
"Yeah."
"I don't ask permission." He wanted to say more, to thank her, but he bit his tongue. Instead, he walked out into the cold night, sat in his car, and stared at his own reflection in the rearview mirror. Tomorrow, everything would change. Cameron arrived an hour early the next morning. The parking lot was still half empty, coated in a sheen of frost that hadn't yet been melted by the rising sun. He sat in his car for a few minutes, watching the diner through the windshield. A flicker of fluorescent light buzzed from the kitchen window. Devin was already inside. He pulled the apron over his head as he stepped through the back door. The prep station was quiet except for the rhythmic chop of a knife. Devin glanced at him, then returned to slicing onions. "You're early," she said without slowing down. "Couldn't sleep," Cameron replied. "Figured I'd get a head start." She handed him a tray of potatoes.
Was, Bill, dice.
"You know the drill." They worked in silence until the door slammed open and Troy walked in, already talking into his headset. He didn't acknowledge either of them, just walked through to the office in the back. Devin's hands paused for a second. "He's been coming in later and later," she said quietly. "But today he's early. That means something's up." By 7, the rest of the morning crew had trickled in. The mood was flat, mechanical. No one exchanged more than a nod. Cameron noticed how everyone avoided eye contact with Troy, who remained glued to his tablet, occasionally barking orders without looking up. At 8:30, the front doors opened to a rush of regulars, construction workers, a retired couple, a woman with 2 toddlers. The kitchen snapped into motion. Orders came in a flood, and the line struggled to keep pace. The grill guy, Marcus, dropped a tray of bacon and swore under his breath. The server, Lacey, looked overwhelmed before the first hour was done. "Where's Angela?" Devin asked, flipping a pancake onto a plate with a practice flick. "She's supposed to be on register." "Called out," Lacey called back, juggling 3 plates on her arm. "3rd time this week." Devin looked toward the office. "And he's not gonna cover it." Cameron stepped out from behind the prep station. "I can help. Just show me what to do." She hesitated. "You ever worked front of house?" "No," he admitted. "But I'll figure it out." Lacey gave him a 2-minute crash course between tables: how to punch in an order, how to comp something if a customer complained, which drawer stuck and needed a smack. Cameron fumbled at first. Gave someone the wrong change. Forgot to ring in a side dish. But he learned fast. And more importantly, he watched. He watched Lacey apologize to a customer for a cold omelet and promise to make it right, only to get snapped at by Troy for wasting product. He watched Marcus limp through his shift, clearly nursing an injury, while Troy ignored him and laughed at something on his phone. And he watched Devin handle a dozen orders at once, while still keeping the team from unraveling. At 10, a teenage boy in a faded work uniform came in and placed a to-go order. His hands were dirty, and he looked exhausted. "Just coffee and toast," he mumbled, pulling out 2 crumpled dollar bills. Lacey took his order, handed it back to the kitchen, and turned to ring it up. Then Troy stepped out from the office and intercepted her. "What's that kid doing ordering food like this is a soup kitchen?" he said loud enough for half the diner to hear. Lacey tensed. "He paid." "Barely. And now he's loitering. He's waiting for his order. I don't like the look of him. Run it out and tell him to wait outside." Cameron took a step forward, but Devin beat him to it, emerging from the kitchen with a toast wrapped and a fresh cup of coffee. She walked straight to the boy and handed it over with a quiet smile. Troy was already walking toward her. "You just love making me look like the bad guy, don't you?" "You're doing that all by yourself," she said, voice calm but firm. Troy's face turned red. "You want to keep testing me? Keep pushing? You're not irreplaceable." "No one is," she replied. "But someone should care what happens out there." He jabbed a finger toward the kitchen. "Clock out. Now." Devin didn't flinch. For what? Disrespect. Insubordination. "You're done." She looked at him for a long moment, then untied her apron and folded it neatly onto the counter. Cameron felt his jaw clench. He stepped out from the register, heart thudding. "You can't be serious." Troy turned. "You want to join her? That's 2 names I can replace by Monday." "No," Cameron said, pulling off his glasses. "You won't be replacing anyone."
Troy blinked.
What? I'm Cameron Vance, he said, letting the name land. Owner of this chain. And I've seen enough. The diner went still. Lacey froze mid-step. Marcus peeked from behind the grill. The kid with the coffee stood stunned by the door. Troy laughed nervously. You expect me to believe that? Cameron pulled out his wallet and dropped his ID on the counter. Believe it. Troy's face changed. The bluster evaporated. I didn't know. No, you didn't, Cameron cut in. You didn't know because you don't pay attention. You don't support your team. You don't lead. You threaten. He turned to Devin. You're not fired. You're promoted. Devin blinked.
What?
You're the new general manager here. Effective immediately. Troy stepped forward, panicked. You don't understand. I've been holding this place together. She's been undermining me for months. Cameron raised a hand. I've been watching. Listening. You don't get to rewrite what I saw. He turned to the crew. Anyone else feel like they've been working under someone who doesn't respect them? Lacey nodded slowly. Marcus raised a hand. Cameron looked back at Troy. Go clean out your office. Troy stood frozen, then turned and walked out, his Bluetooth still hanging uselessly from his ear. Cameron exhaled. We're going to fix this, he said, looking around. But it starts with respect. No more threats. No more silence. Devin stepped forward. What now? Now, Cameron said, we build something better. Together. He glanced at the clock. It was only 11, but the day had shifted. The air felt different. Lighter. Still tense, but hopeful. And for the first time in a long time, Cameron felt like he belonged in his own company. Behind him, the register beeped. A new customer had walked in. Devin picked up her apron. We've got work to do, she said. Cameron nodded, grabbing a rag. I'll handle the floor. The hours after Troy left were thick with uncertainty. The diner's rhythm, already fragile, teetered on a knife edge. Orders kept coming, coffee still brewed, and customers still expected service, but the staff moved like something had been cut loose. Devin worked the grill with her jaw tight, not from stress, but from restraint. She hadn't asked for this. Cameron knew that. He watched her carefully, not to judge, but to support. She didn't need a speech, she needed space to lead. By noon, the lunch rush hit, and the absence of a manager left gaps. Cameron stepped in quietly, moving between front and back as needed. When a customer at table 9 asked where the new manager was, Lacey answered without hesitation. In the kitchen, she said. Helping. That answer traveled fast. By 1, the regulars started to look up from their booths. They noticed the pace was slower but steadier. Orders weren't flying out, but mistakes had dropped. Marcus found a rhythm on the grill now that Devin didn't need to split her focus. And Cameron, still in his apron, bussed tables and refilled coffee like he'd done it all his life. He didn't miss the way Devin glanced at him once, just briefly, as if recalibrating her understanding of who he was. After the last of the lunch crowd cleared out, Devin leaned against the prep counter and pressed a damp towel to her neck. Cameron came to stand beside her. I'm not ready for this, she said without looking at him. You were ready the minute you told Troy to stop. She shook her head. Running a shift is one thing. Running this whole place? It needs more than just grit. Cameron folded his arms. Then tell me what you need. She hesitated. A second-line cook. Marcus is barely keeping up, and he's working through a knee injury. 1 more week, and he's either going to quit or land in urgent care. Cameron nodded. What else? Angela needs a warning on her record. She's always calling out but somehow keeps dodging consequences. Lacey's picking up her slack, and she's burning out. I'll have HR write it up today. Devin looked at him then. You're actually following through? Not just doing damage control. No damage control, Cameron said. I came here expecting to find laziness and bad attitudes. What I found was people surviving in spite of the leadership. That ends now. She didn't respond right away. Then she said, "This place might survive. But not like this." He leaned closer, keeping his voice low. "What do you mean?" She pushed off the counter and walked him toward the walk-in cooler. Once inside, she pointed at a clipboard hanging on the wall. "Look at the prep list. Half of it's scratched out. We didn't get our full delivery again. Happened last week too, and the week before." Cameron scanned the list. Several items had been marked as substitutes. Others were just missing. "Pete handles supplier contracts," he said. Devin nodded.
Yeah.
"And I've emailed him twice." No response. Cameron frowned. "You're saying this isn't just a missed shipment?" "I'm saying something's off. We're paying for food we're not getting. And it's not just this location. I talked to Denise at Eastlake. She's been shorted too." He stepped back, connecting the dots. "You think Pete's skimming. I think someone is. And if it's not him, it's someone under him." Cameron didn't answer. He pulled out his phone, tapped a few notes, then slipped it back into his pocket. "I'll handle it," he said. Devin nodded.
Good.
"Because if we can't trust the supply chain, we can't trust the books." They left the cooler and rejoined the rest of the staff. Marcus was wiping down his station, his limp more noticeable now that the adrenaline had worn off. "You should sit," Cameron said. "It's fine," Marcus replied, not looking up. Devin walked over and laid a hand on the counter. "You're not fine. Clock out early today. I'll cover the rest of the shift." Marcus looked at her, surprised. "You serious?"
Yeah.
"Go ice that knee. You've earned it." He pulled off his apron slowly, like he didn't quite believe it. As he left, Cameron turned to Devin. "Do you have someone in mind for the second-line cook?" She nodded. "There's a guy named Jorge. Used to work at the downtown location. Got pushed out when a new manager came in. He's fast, clean, and knows our systems. I'd bring him back in a heartbeat." "Reach out to him," Cameron said. "Tell him to expect a call." Devin raised an eyebrow. "You're giving me hiring power? You're running the store. You should have the tools." By the time dinner rolled around, the energy in the diner had shifted. Tired, yes. But the tension had eased. People were talking again. Lacey cracked a joke at the register. The dishwasher, a quiet kid named Theo, offered to cover an extra hour without being asked. Even customers noticed. A man, maybe in his 60s, leaned over to Cameron as he cleared a plate. "You knew?" he asked. "Something like that." "Place feels different today. Quieter. Not in a bad way." Cameron smiled. "We're working on a few things." The man nodded.
Keep at it.
"I come here every week. Past few months, it's been getting rough." Cameron thanked him and returned to the kitchen, where Devin was double-checking the prep list for the next day. "Jorge's in," she said before he could ask. "Starts Thursday. He said thanks for the second chance." "He'll earn it," Cameron replied. "Just like you did." They both turned as Theo entered, holding a stained apron. "Hey," he said, hesitating. "I know we're short, but I've got school at 8 tomorrow. Can I start a little later?" Devin looked at Cameron, who nodded. "Come in at 10, she told Theo. "We'll make it work." He nodded quickly, relieved. "Thanks." After he left, Cameron leaned against the counter. "How long has that kid been here?" 6 months, Devin said. "Never missed a shift." "Anyone know he's in school?" "Not until now." Cameron checked the time. Nearly closing. He looked at Devin. "You good if I head out?" "I've got it." He removed his apron, folded it over his arm, and paused. "I'll be back tomorrow," he said. Devin tilted her head. "Still undercover?"
No, he said.
"Now I'm just here to help." He stepped into the night, the door shutting behind him with a soft click. The air was colder now, but something else had changed too. Not just the diner. Him. The next morning, Cameron arrived just before sunrise, stepping into the quiet rhythm of preparation. The kitchen was dim, lit only by the overhead fluorescents humming faintly above the prep line. Devon was already there, reviewing the schedule, a pen clenched between her fingers. She didn't look up when he walked in, but she slid a fresh copy of the staffing chart across the prep table toward him. I reworked the shifts, she said. Tight, but manageable until Jorge starts Thursday. I moved Lacey to open tomorrow to give her a breather today. Theo's coming in late like we said. Marcus texted he got the knee brace through his cousin. He's staying off his feet till Saturday. Cameron scanned the chart. The handwriting was precise, the plan clear. Anyone give you pushback? No, she replied, finally glancing up. They just want to know this isn't temporary. It's not. She nodded, then turned back to double-check the inventory levels. Cameron stepped into the front, where the quiet hum of the heater filled the empty dining room. A few minutes later, Denise, the general manager from Eastlake, walked in with a man in a dark windbreaker and a serious expression. His name was Richard Cameron's internal auditor, and he'd driven in from headquarters before sunrise, per Cameron's request. They gathered in the back office. The door closed behind them. Denise dropped a folder on the desk first. 3 weeks of discrepancies, she said. Deliveries marked complete, but missing key items. Produce, proteins, even paper goods. I triple counted before coming here. Richard opened the folder, flipping through the sheets. Same vendors across locations. Same delivery logs. Signatures match. Cameron leaned forward. Check the vendor invoices. Compare the amounts being billed to what's actually received. Richard nodded, already dialing his assistant. I'll have someone cross-check the last 6 months. Cameron turned to Denise. Eastlake's been seeing this since when? Late March, she said. I escalated to Pete twice. He brushed it off. Said drivers were probably short-staffed. Cameron's jaw tensed. He's not brushing anything off anymore. Richard looked up. Once I verify the overbilling, this is grounds for immediate termination. Do it, Cameron said. And flag every vendor connected to Pete's department. I want a clean sweep. By mid-morning, the diner was running with cautious momentum. Lacey was training a new part-timer on register a college student named Mia who had been quietly absorbing the workflow. Devon stayed close, stepping in when needed but letting people make their own calls. Cameron floated between tables, checking in with customers. One of the regulars, a woman in her 50s with a thick scarf and a notebook, waved him over. You the guy that helped bust tables on Monday? He nodded. She tapped her pen against her coffee mug. Place feels steadier. New manager? Promotion, he said. She earned it. The woman smiled. Good. Someone needed to. Back in the kitchen, Cameron found Devon giving Mia a crash course on how to handle refund requests through the POS system. When the lesson wrapped, he pulled Devon aside. Pete's out, he said. Richard confirmed he'd been authorizing overstock to vendors, then reselling goods on the side through a shell account. We traced the invoices. Devon didn't blink. How deep's the damage? Looks like it started small. Grew once your location and Eastlake expanded. He figured no one was tracking the smaller items. She crossed her arms. And the rest of the chain? We'll audit every location. I've already assigned a regional compliance lead. No more blind trust. She exhaled slowly. Good. Because we were drowning. I know, he said. And no one threw you a rope. They were interrupted by a sudden burst from the front. A man's voice loud, sharp, angry. I've been waiting 20 minutes. This is ridiculous. Cameron stepped out quickly. At the counter, a tall man in a pressed dress shirt was jabbing his finger toward Nia. She held her ground, voice steady but unsure. I'm sorry, sir. It's been 12 minutes, don't correct me, the man snapped. You people always have an excuse. Cameron moved between them before the sentence finished. I'll handle this, he said to Nia gently. Go check on table 4. The man turned to Cameron. About time someone competent showed up. I know the type. You hire them because they're cheap. Cameron didn't raise his voice. You need to leave. The man scoffed. Excuse me? We don't tolerate discrimination. You need to leave.
Now.
The man's mouth opened, but Cameron didn't give him the chance. You insulted a staff member based on her appearance. You're not welcome here. Please exit the property. People had gone quiet. Lacey stood frozen at the side station. A couple of customers had stood up, unsure if they should intervene. The man looked around, realized no one was stepping in for him, and muttered something under his breath before storming out. Cameron turned back to Nia, who had moved behind the coffee station. You handled that well, he said. You stayed calm. She nodded. Didn't expect that. Neither did he, Cameron said. You're doing great. Devin appeared behind him a moment later. Thanks for stepping in. I won't let that slide, he said. Ever. As the afternoon wore on, the staff found their rhythm again. Jorge arrived just after 4 to get reacquainted with the kitchen. He greeted Devin with a quiet hug, then shook Cameron's hand firmly. Appreciate the call, he said. You earned another shot, Cameron replied. Devin vouches for you. That's enough. By 6, the kitchen was holding steady. Jorge worked cleanly, his station tight and fluid. Marcus, still off for recovery, had stopped by briefly to drop off a thank you card. Inside was a note thanking Devin for not pushing him past his limits, and a promise to be back on Saturday, brace and all. At closing, the team gathered near the counter. Devin cleared her throat. I know it's been a week, she said. Longer, really. But I want to say something. Everyone turned toward her. This place doesn't run because of one person. It runs because we all show up. And I know we haven't always been treated like we matter. But that changes now. If something's broken, we fix it together. If someone's struggling, we step in. She looked at Cameron. That starts at the top. He nodded. And it stays there. Lacey raised her hand. Not joking. Are we allowed to clap? Devin smiled. Go ahead. The group clapped, not loudly, but with real feeling. It wasn't celebration. It was release. After the staff filtered out, Cameron and Devin stood outside under the street lamp. The night was clear, cooler than before. You staying involved? She asked. More than I used to, he said. Less than you will. She looked at him. You're not going back to HQ and forgetting about us?
No, he said.
But I don't need to hover. I hired a regional operations lead today. Someone with real field experience. You'll have support. She nodded, then kicked lightly at a pebble near her foot. What made you come here in the first place? He looked across the dim lot, where the last of the staff were getting into their cars. I read the reports. They were clean. Too clean. But the reviews weren't. I trusted the numbers more than the people. That was a mistake. Devin didn't say anything for a moment. Then she said, You fixed it. I started to. She reached for her keys.
Well.
I've got 4 hours before I'm back here again. Better get some sleep. Same, he said, walking toward his car. But I'll be back next week. As a customer this time. As she drove off, Cameron lingered a moment longer. The diner lights shut off behind him, one by one, until only the sign remained flickering slightly, but still shining. He got in his car, started the engine, and pulled away from the curb. This time, he wasn't leaving the business behind. He was finally stepping into it,